What's going on, my friends? Manny here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of the conditioning series, in which I want to share my top tips on how climbers can get the most out of their current fitness for finally sending the big project or trying a hard flash or on-site or whatever crazy stuff you have in mind. Before we start, again a few words about the background footage. We were pretty lucky with the weather recently, not a lot of rain but also not dramatically hot, and so we headed out for some rope climbing recently in an area of Lower Austria situated in a nice forest. And since I kinda need to get back into the flow of rope climbing, I tried two not so super hard routes, but you will see yourself. Alright, so out of the four major internal influenceable factors of conditioning, body weight, mental sharpness, restedness and special substances, we are currently discussing special substances, and as I already mentioned last time, I'm only going to discuss the three most important ones, because as you can imagine there are a lot of substances out there, but the three most important ones are caffeine, alcohol and THC in my opinion, since they are used the most amongst climbers in my experience. And today I want to have a quick talk about alcohol. Now, most of you will probably say that's a quite clear deal. Alcohol destroys the gains, it makes you drunk. How can this ever be beneficial for climbing performance in any way, shape or form? Well, there is one quite interesting aspect of alcohol which you might not have thought about so far, but more about that later. Let's first take a quick look at what the substance actually does in the body. Alcohol is a quite small water-soluble molecule and is therefore quite easily taken up into the bloodstream after ingestion and subsequently distributed throughout the whole body. Alcohol damages all the cells of your body, but especially neurons, and it influences the metabolism of the central nervous system by binding to an array of membrane proteins, especially ion channels as it appears to be, and thereby it alters or simply destroys their functionality. And it might even trigger programmed cell death of brain cells. This leads to a reduced transmission of stimuli throughout the central nervous system, with the classical consequences: loss of balance, loss of motoric precision, reflexes and cognitive capabilities like speech, short-term memory and also reduced vision. Simply put, everything that needs quite some processing power by the brain is going to suffer from alcohol intoxication. And since climbing hard stuff is quite challenging in regards to concentration and focus, I can definitely recommend you to stay sober if you want to get your project done. Another thing which needs to be mentioned in regards to alcohol is that almost all of the taken up alcohol has to be metabolized to get it out of the system again. And this is done like with almost all other water-soluble toxins in the liver. Now, there is quite a lot of other stuff which is done by the liver as well. For example, getting rid of bad substances which might have formed during your last session, or protein metabolism, which plays a role when it comes to the gains, as you can imagine. So long story short, as you guys probably have heard before, alcohol is detrimental when it comes to recovery and training effect. So there you've got even more reasons to stay abstinent from that stuff. Some of you might say now, but you know what, I know this guy, he always makes party in the evening and on the next day he sticks his project in hangover mode, which he couldn't do last time when he was sober. How in the hell is that possible if alcohol is that detrimental to athletic performance? So let me try to explain this very interesting phenomenon actually. First of all, you need to realize that although acute alcohol intoxication is detrimental for climbing performance, definitely, the subsequent hangover mode, as I call it now, can actually be beneficial for climbing performance, mainly for two reasons. First, alcohol acts as a pretty effective dehydrating agent. We all know that dry mouth feeling after a rather intense night, let's put it that way, and if you paid attention to it, you might have noticed that you had to pee a lot during that night. Apparently, alcohol hinders your pituitary gland in producing vasopressin, which is an antidiuretic hormone that as such prevents excretion of water through your kidneys. Therefore, alcohol acts as a diuretic substance, causing lots of water excretion through the kidneys. Another substance which appears to have a diuretic effect is caffeine, which we discussed last time. The extent of dehydrating effect of alcohol can be measured, and it seems to be pretty severe actually. Roughly 320 milliliters of urine are lost per 200 milliliters of beer, for example. Depending of course on the individual and on the alcohol concentration of the beer or other beverages. However, alcohol will cause you to lose more water than you take in, and one major consequence of this is of course weight loss. I have discussed the topic of easy to lose and pretty heavy water weight already in a previous conditioning episode. The second benefit of the hangover mode is that the climber will have reduced expectations. Rightfully so, you might think, because who would expect to send limit stuff in a hangover? Most people don't know about the weight loss due to dehydration, which actually benefits performance. Now, there is a certain quite big group of climbers who do not respond well to lots of expectations. When the conditions are good and they feel alright, they kind of get this pressure that they now actually should send this stuff, and this makes them nervous, and at some point fear of failure might kick in the end they always drop off because of some little mistake or inaccuracy or something. If you remove expectations from these climbers, they actually start to thrive, and all of a sudden things happen which might be a surprise to the whole crew. And by the way, sorry for elucidating you about this in case you are one of these climbers yourself. Your hangover is an excuse no more. So now that we've clarified how absolutely awesome and great alcohol is for climbing performance, I want to make clear that I do not endorse alcohol consumption. I almost never drink myself, and I definitely don't recommend it if you want to improve in the long run. And by the way, the apparent benefits of the hangover mode can actually be induced by other healthier and probably even more effective ways. Just check out the previous episodes about body weight and mental sharpness. And that's already it for this episode. I hope you've got something from it. Drop some likes, opinions and experiences if you did, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!